Afghanistan's future is on the line as voters there head for the polls next week and coalition forces clash with Taliban fighters. We're going to talk with Bloomberg diplomatic correspondent Indira Lakshmanan in just a moment, but we begin in the capital city, Kabul, with our Jim Rupert. Jim, you were in Afghanistan 5 years ago when incumbent President Karzai was first elected. Differences from then, and can he win again?
Well, he can win again. 5 years ago, Afghans were able to go to the polls for the first time to elect a national leader that they thought would lead a government to meet their own aspirations. These aspirations are basically security and an economy that can grow out of a secure country, jobs, basically. 5 years later, the war has widened. They don't feel that promise has been delivered on, and so it's a lot harder to be hopeful this time around as they ask themselves whether they want to re-elect President Karzai or choose another leader, and most of the alternatives are not well known to the Afghan people.
Will these elections be fair?
I'll cross your fingers. I was talking to one of the leading candidates yesterday, a former planning minister named Ramazan Bashardost. Asked him this question. He said, up to now, there is still a possibility to have fair elections, but there are troubling indications. Look, the insurgency in the south renders a lot of rural districts of Afghanistan off limits to election observers. In a lot of these same areas, this is the ethnic Pashtun conservative tribal heartland. There has been a curious and somewhat troubling high level and frankly unrealistic level of women registered to vote, in some cases registered much more than men, and that's simply something that culturally cannot happen normally. There's a fear that a lot of those registrations are going to get voted en masse by the men. That it's going to happen under the control of tribal leaders without supervision by election monitors, and that could involve hundreds of thousands, a million or more votes. So there is real concern, and we will have to see on the day.
Jim, the Taliban has escalated its violence, threatening anyone who votes. What does the Taliban fear about this election?
The Taliban simply don't want to see the continued elaboration of a government under the indirect guidance and with the support of the United States, when that government's avowed objective and the goal of the Obama administration, as the Bush administration before it, is to have a President Karzai or a successor whose role will be to exclude the Taliban and al-Qaeda, their Islamic militant allies, from operations in Afghanistan. They are able to take advantage, of course, of this latent but very deep Afghan feeling that, you know what, we just never want to be ruled by foreigners. Every country has that feeling. Afghanistan has had it sort of more deeply, more profoundly over its history than most.
Let me turn to Indira, who is with a high Afghan agriculture official in Missouri. It seems no secret, Indira, that the Obama administration is not enamored with Karzai. What then are the implications if he wins?
Look, it's widely known that senior members of the U.S. administration suspect Karzai of turning a blind eye corruption in his government or being responsible for widespread inefficiency and the failure of his government to deliver services to people. It's well known that Joe Biden, before he was vice president, stormed out of a dinner with Karzai because he was dissatisfied with the answers he was getting. And Secretary of State Clinton referred to Afghanistan as a narco state during her confirmation testimony. That said, the Obama administration realizes that it's most likely that Karzai is going to be reelected, and they're going to need to work with him because they need a good relationship with whoever wins in Afghanistan.
Next month, the administration will send Congress a new Afghan plan with gauging metrics to measure progress. Is that going to change anything? It's a restless Congress they're sending it to.
It's a good question. Congress has actually been pushing for some sort of metrics for 2 years now. Even members of Obama's own party want yardsticks by which to measure the progress. And our understanding is that those yardsticks are going to be socioeconomic measures, such as the spread of electricity and the growth of agriculture in the country, as well as security measures.
And that's part of what you're doing out there in Missouri right now with that agriculture minister, right?
That's right. And that's part of what this new Obama strategy in Afghanistan to turn around the war is all about. The effort is to try to integrate the civilian side with the military side of our efforts there.
The American commander, General McChrystal, is not going to ask for more troops right now, we're told. But come fall, do you expect that there'll be a request for more troops, and what will be the Obama administration reaction?
I think it's pretty clear that McChrystal feels he needs more U.S. troops, at the very least to support what is expected to be his request for a doubling in the target numbers for Afghan National Army and police. There's been a real increase in the IED attacks that have affected U.S. troops serving in Afghanistan, and July was the bloodiest month yet for U.S. and many coalition forces since the war began 8 years ago. So I think there probably will be a push for more U.S. forces from McChrystal's side. It's not clear yet whether the Obama administration is willing to go for that before giving their civilian side a full chance to work.
Well, let me ask Jim Rupert in Kabul, how is the war going?
There is good news, I suppose, in the short term. This very latest offensive, which has been on in the last few weeks in southern Helmand province, this is the first offensive of the Obama administration, if you like, the first offensive under the new commander, General Stanley McChrystal, has at least offered us an absence of the kinds of reports of civilian casualties at the hands of U.S.-led forces that has been so instrumental in building the slow unhappiness of Afghans with U.S. forces in the country. Whether that is sustained over the long term is going to be critical as we move forward. But it's early to say.
All right. Well, Jim in Kabul and Indira in Missouri, thank you both.